Today on Exposed, the Calo podcast, squatting in homes has become a recent trend as TikTok influencer goes viral for calling on illegal aliens to confiscate people's homes. Plus, Trump is accused of attacking his Secret Service detail. Well, we have a lot of evidence to disprove this claim. Next, the government finally discovers a solution to the immigration crisis.
Now into the air and down they swing, down to the ground near a stream or a lake.
And Democrats are exploiting a little-known program to manipulate young voters in the 2024 election. All this and more today on Exposed, the Calo podcast. A migrant TikToker, he's got over 500,000 followers. Well, he's offering his comrades tips on how to invade unoccupied homes and invoke squatters' rights in the U.S. On your screen, you're looking at a picture of this great man. There he is. Isn't he a good-looking guy? Nice bald head, shiny, ready to go. This guy's got an attitude beyond attitudes, and he's a Venezuelan national. He lives in a suburb of Ohio. And he said in a recent video this. He goes, under U.S. law, if a house is not inhabited, we can seize it. Where are these guys getting this information from? Who's feeding them this kind of information about our laws and the loopholes in our laws? Whoever it is, believe me, they're not for this country. Let's look at this first clip, and then we'll talk on the other side. Here it is.
Mi gente, he pensado invadir una casa en United States. Ya que me enteré que existe una ley que dice que si una casa no está habitada, podemos expropiarla.
We can expropriate it. That these guys, I don't know, something about it makes me want to kind of wring his neck or something. But the sad part is it's leftist policies that are leading guys like this to go in and take over homes. Now, this is a huge subject right now, and news media is not really covering it, at least major media, fake news, to the extent that it should be covered. Let's look at the next clip here.
As we have more migrants moving into cities, more homelessness, we are going to see more of it, more squatting.
James Burling is a property rights attorney.
But they're talking about all the advantages that you can get from squatting. It's inevitable that it's going to increase.
In past videos, the illegal migrant bragged that he came to the United States to vacation and now lives off U.S. taxpayers because he had a child in this country. He also tells his followers that he waits for Americans' hard-earned pension checks to come in every month. In another video, he is urging fellow Venezuelans to pay the fines of a 15-year-old migrant who allegedly shot a tourist in Times Square, saying, quote, today it could be him, tomorrow it could be one of you. But
this guy, Moreno, he claimed in a viral TikTok clip that had 33,900,000 views itself that he has African friends who have already taken 7 homes in the area. So these guys are like proud of what they're doing. And it's spreading like wildfire everywhere because everybody's got a phone. Everybody's watching this guy on TikTok and, viral media. So this, I don't know, scumbag influencer, whatever you want to call him, he lives with his partner and a new baby that they have. And they're getting federal assistance, money from the government every single month, and he throws it in our face. Now, these squatter laws exist in just about all the 50 states. Some are a little more lenient than others, naturally, on the left, like New York, Chicago, L.A., places like that where these squatters are, well, they're trucked in, they're bussed in, they're flown in by the United States government. They're placed in these cities, and then we give them a credit card to go out and buy whatever food they want. They sign up for federal programs. They can now get licenses in some of these places, and then they roam around the streets looking for signs of for sale by owner. And then what they'll do is they'll look inside the windows, and if nobody's in there, they'll break into the house, and they'll start squatting there. If they're there for at least 30 days, they can claim squatters' rights in many of these locales. So they're able to stay in there for just 30 days. That's not a very long time. A lot of time people are absentee owners, or they've moved to another state, or this might be a vacation home or a rental home. And so what you have is the homeowner finds out about the squatter. What do you think their rights are? Well, hardly any. Now, this guy also made headlines last month when he was urging followers of him, like I said, he's got a lot of followers, to get behind this other young man by the name of Jesus Alejandro Rivas Figuera. He was charged as an adult with attempted murder for shooting a tourist in Times Square and for firing on police. Now, if this squatting was just confined, let's say, to one area of the country or one particular locale, we could blame it on the local, people in charge. We could blame it on the mayor or even the governor of a state. But this is not just an isolated incident. It's everywhere.
In Beverly Hills in California, Morgan Gargulio, an aspiring actor, spearheaded the operation, fabricating a false lease to establish his claim over a mansion without facing any legal repercussions. He seized a 5,900 square foot property, which had been on sale since last August for $4.6 million. And, he assumed it was fair game. It says here that this individual infiltrated what's often dubbed the most exclusive zip code in America, that being 90210. And his makeshift empire, it says, accommodated not only him, but also his fiancée and rotating cast of friends. He even turned a profit by renting out bedrooms at rates from $150 to $300 per night.
I mean, these guys are bold. They go to the best zip code in the country, 90210. Okay, Beverly Hills, a very ritzy area. They find a home that's up for sale. Okay, they go in and they seize the home and they start living there. It's a 5,900 square foot home up for sale for millions of dollars. And these guys are squatting in there along with their friends. They're throwing lavish parties, swimming in the pool, having a grandiose time, and all at the expense of the homeowner. What does the government do? Well, we'll see in a moment. Let's look at the next clip.
It's not just wealthy people being targeted through these squatter rights. It's actually anybody who tries renting a home. In fact, if you are selling your home and you put a for sale sign out front, that alone, in some instances, is being looked for by potential squatters for houses to move into and just occupy forever.
Exactly like I was talking about. This is not just in exclusive neighborhoods. This is not just for the wealthy. This is an average person. You or I, we decide, well, we're going to sell a home that we have or whatever, put it up for sale. We put a for sale by owner or even a realtor sign up in front. And these guys, that's what they're doing. They're looking for homes that are unoccupied that they can win and kind of take over. Let's look at the next clip.
You be trying to steal my house. Yes, you are.
How about that? A squatter standoff. A property owner confronts a group of people she says moved into her $1 million home in Queens, and our cameras were rolling as dozens of officers showed up.
This is a very big growing problem. I received dozens of tips from viewers about this in just the past week. I went to do what I thought was going to be a routine interview. Instead, we capture what police and property owners are dealing with on a daily basis.
I have video of you. Who are these people? Out the situation. Yeah, but they're house, man. Relax. No.
To understand how this day ended,
We need the police right away.
with multiple 911 calls and arrests, we have to start at the beginning.
Adele, the hardest question is, how do you say your name?
We met Adele Andaloro outside the home her parents left her in Flushing, Queens. She's in the process of selling it.
No, he locked it.
But she's been locked out. She claims squatters moved in on February 6th and refused to leave.
What's it like being here knowing you can't go inside of your own home?
It's enraging. It really is.
In New York, squatters have rights after 30 days.
By the time that someone does their investigation and they do their work and their job, we'll be well over the 30 days, and this man will have stolen my home. And now she's back.
Just after wrapping up our interview, a woman showed up.
What are you doing in the house? Are you renting this house? Why are you here?
She unlocked the front door, saw our cameras, and took off.
It's open. Let's go in the house. It's open.
Adele and her daughter, with the property deed in hand, went inside.
This is my furniture. These are my curtains.
She didn't just find her belongings inside.
There's a man sleeping right there. Get out of my house.
She found two men.
How long have you lived here?
I moved in about 2 days ago.
They've called the police on me, and I've called the locksmiths. I didn't come in illegally. The door was open.
Police started interviewing neighbors and looking for documents.
Do you have something that shows that you've been here for more than 30 days?
They took the man who told me he had been renting for 2 days out in handcuffs
They got one out.
and escorted the other guy off the property.
Now you're afraid to come out.
I'm not coming out. This house is empty. This is my home. My locksmith is on the corner waiting to change my locks.
Now, you would think that that's the end of the story because, let's face it, it's her home. She has the deed in hand, showed the police officers. These people were not in there. She didn't have a lease with them or anything. So the cops come and remove the people squatting there, remove the guy who says he has a lease, which he doesn't have a lease. And you think that's the end of it. She calls a locksmith, changed the locks on the door. It's not the end.
It's not fair that I, as the homeowner, should be having to go through this.
How you doing?
Minutes later, a locksmith showed up, but police gave her a warning before they left.
I may end up in handcuffs today if this man shows up here
Unbelievable.
and says that I have illegally evicted him. I said to them, let him take me to court the way I've been told to take him to court. But today, I'm not leaving my house.
Less than 10 minutes after police left and the locks were changed, the man who claims to be the one actually leasing the house shows up.
Call the police again.
With the other guy, police took off the property.
Do you see this? This guy just literally broke down my door, broke through myself and my daughter to get in here. This guy just forced himself into my house. No, he did not. Yes, he did. And so did you. You broke through the front door.
Officer.
The man called the police on her.
So why is it that I have to leave and he doesn't have to leave?
Because technically he can't be kicked out. We need to go to court.
They consider this a landlord-tenant issue.
Technically, she can't kick the guy out of her own home. They consider it a landlord-tenant issue. That's utter nonsense. The story continues.
And by law, it has to be handled through the housing court, not with police.
If you own this house, you would not want her inside.
I don't own it.
Exactly,
Yes.
she does.
Yes, but then once again, you should know how the law works.
I do know how it
There's-
works.
There's rules to the as you got to go to court and send me to civil court.
He says he signed a lease in October, but wouldn't tell us with who.
I got proof longer than that.
Show us the proof.
But who are you for me to show? I showed it to cops.
Dan with Channel 7 News. If you don't want to show it, you don't want to show it.
Cool. Come here, brother. I like that.
I would like to see it.
He didn't show me a lease.
This is a bill.
A bill for work he says he had done to the house. He didn't show police a lease either.
The police department doesn't have the lease?
No.
He's got no documentation.
Just bills.
So Adele, you're getting arrested right now?
Being arrested
For what?
for being in my own home.
And where's your lease?
She's buying the house. It's not her house anymore.
My deed
That's
is
what was
current
told
and
her.
legal.
Arrested for unlawful eviction. She changed the locks on a man who claims he lives there.
So how does this all end then? When do you leave?
The way it ends is either she pays me my money that I put into the house, pay me the money, and I'll leave, or send me to court, and we deal with the judge in court. It's that simple.
See, these guys, they know the law. They're scammers. So he doesn't have a lease, but what he says is he did work on the house. So here's a bill he has for doing work on the house. And unless she pays me, I'm not leaving. So she's got to take me to court so we can get before the judge because they know that the judges are lenient. The judges are in favor of illegal immigrants. Guys like this, he doesn't sound like an illegal immigrant. I don't know where this guy is from. But either way, he's a scumbag, slimeball. That's what they do, taking advantage of people. And this is a powerful way to destroy the fabric of America, the justice of the American system. And it's kind of not really unlike what happened during January 6th. You might remember that debacle. But the truth is, the January 6th event, let's call it, is being exposed. I want us to watch this video, and then we're going to talk about this on the other side. Here it is.
You might remember how 2 years ago, the January 6th Select Committee hired an actual TV producer in order to make these really tight, well-edited hearings to be released to the public. In total, over the course of a 6-month-long period, 10 individual hearings were broadcast on TV. And one of the most unexpected and salacious things to come out of these hearings was the testimony of this woman right here, Miss Cassidy Hutchinson. At the tail end of the Trump administration, Cassidy served as a top aide to Mr. Mark Meadows, the White House Chief of Staff. And during Ms. Cassidy's testimony, which, just for reference, took up the entirety of hearing number 6, she made some rather shocking and salacious claims about what President Trump did in his car on January 6th. Here's a short snippet from her 2-hour-long hearing, and just for reference, when she says Bobby, she's referring to Mr. Robert Engel, Trump's lead Secret Service agent. Take a listen.
Tony proceeded to tell me that when the president got in the Beast, he was under the impression from Mr. Meadows that the off-the-record movement to the Capitol was still possible and likely to happen, but that Bobby had more information. So once the president had gotten into the vehicle with Bobby, he thought that they were going up to the Capitol, and when Bobby had relayed to him, we don't have the assets to do it, it's not secure, we're going back to the West Wing, the president had very strong, a very angry response to that.
Oh, sure.
Tony described him as being irate. The president said something to the effect of, "I'm the effing president, taking up to the Capitol now." To which Bobby responded, "Sir, we have to go back to the West Wing." The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel. Mr. Engel grabbed his arm, said, "Sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel. We're going back to the West Wing. We're not going to the Capitol."
Horrible
Mr. Trump then used his
Horrible.
right hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel, and when Mr. Renato had recounted this story to me, he had motioned towards his clavicles.
Wow. The people who heard that testimony, they were furious. Trump, he's such an evil guy. What an evil man trying to choke out the Secret Service guy. Let me tell you, this story is finally being debunked. Now, number one, this woman, Ashley, whatever her name is, it doesn't even matter. Cassidy. It's not even important what her name is. She was being used by the deep state in order to create a story. Come to find out, she wasn't firsthand to the story. No, she wasn't secondhand to the story. No, she got it third hand. That's how she got this information. And so she was testifying, well, why wouldn't we get firsthand information? Why didn't the January 6th committee get firsthand information? Well, they did. The actual driver of the car, the Beast, the actual driver, but we didn't hear anything about that testimony, did we? No, we didn't. Why? Well, because he said none of this ever happened. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through this and kind of prove the lie that has been perpetrated on all of us. Let's look at this first clip, very short, but let's look at it. This is about the president's vehicle.
The driver and the lead Secret Service protective agent who sits in the front passenger seat. In addition to these 3 practical spots, there are 4 other seats in the back passenger cabin. One seat is next to the president and is usually reserved for a high-ranking guest, for example, the First Lady. The president's chair is separated from the guest's seat by a folding desk. There are 3 additional rearward-facing seats and a bench. There is a glass partition that only the president can open. It separates the passenger cabin from the driver's cabin. An onboard fire suppression system further secures the tank if a fire ever starts on board.
Now, I showed you that video because most people look at that and they go, oh, yeah. You know, but there's some very interesting details in that video about the Beast. So let's look at the first picture and then we'll talk about it. So this is the Beast. It's approximately 18 feet long. It's a huge vehicle, fully armored. And there you could see that there are 2 doors, okay, on each side. There's 2 doors. There's a driver's door, and then there's another door, okay? And that door, when you open it, it looks like that's just access to the president's area. That's what it looks like. Well, let's look at the next picture. Here we have 2 doors. The guy's opening the door of the second part in order to be able to display what's happening inside the vehicle. Now, this next picture shows, our former presidents, there they are, Obama and Biden, in the back seat of the Beast. Now, it's a pretty confusing unless you can understand how this is actually laid out. These guys are in the back. In order for Obama, let's say he was the president during this debacle, and he decided to lunge towards the driver, he would actually have to go by, let's look at the next picture. He would actually have to go by this seat in the middle, which is where the Secret Service sit, and then be able to get to the driver in the front of the seat. So here's the thing. It was all a big lie. First of all, they changed stories midstream. They said, oh, well, he wasn't in the Beast that day. He was in an SUV. Oh, really? Well, we investigated that. And he was not in an SUV that day. In fact, all of the January 6th hearing talked about, and so did Miss Cassidy, talk about him getting into the Beast, okay, which is this vehicle that we displayed here for you today. And so that's just out of the picture. So now it comes down to, how did President Trump, sitting in the back of the limousine, go about 15 feet forward to be able to get to the hand of the driver on the steering wheel? And I don't understand. How is it isn't possible? None of it was possible. The January 6th people knew it wasn't possible. Everybody in the president's cabinet knew it wasn't possible. The news media knows it wasn't possible. But the American people have been duped into believing that something like this actually happened. Why do I bring this up? Well, listen, if they lied about something so unbelievable, like the Beast and President Trump, lunging forward towards his driver, trying to, and yelling at him and cursing at him and telling him he's the president, take me to the Capitol, of all of this. If they lie about that, isn't it possible that the entire January 6th, maybe we were lied to about that also? Let's look at this next video.
I mean, the objective was to destroy the entire MAGA movement, to forever stain the patriotic fervor that was associated with the America First MAGA movement that had won in 2016 and we believe won again in 2020. And the establishment on both sides, of both major parties, were determined to smash that out of existence, not just by defeating Trump, but by destroying the reputations of the movement itself, by creating this narrative that was totally false, but was heavily pushed, that MAGA Republicans, America First Republicans, are somehow a danger to our republic and a domestic terror threat, which is a whole nother story about what the FBI has done to tagging Americans as suspected domestic terrorists and following us as we travel across the country. But the bottom line is that 200, I believe, is a conservative number. Personally, I think there's many more, but a number that I'm comfortable going on record with is that we believe that there were easily 200 FBI undercover assets operating in the crowd, outside the Capitol, embedded into groups that entered the Capitol or provoked entry of the Capitol, and working with FBI assets that would have included Metro Police and Capitol Police that would dress as Trump supporters inside the Capitol, because those were the guys that knew their way around the Capitol. So given the scope of the operation and the number of doors where entry was allowed or even encouraged, then the number of people that were actually outside the Capitol and that entered, we believe 200 is a conservative number. Yes, sir.
It's shocking what you're saying. It confirms everyone's worst suspicions about this. It's clearly true.
Shocking is just an understatement. And here's a guy who's spent years in the deep state, if you will. He has experience. He knows what he's talking about. And he's basically saying that there were possibly up to as many as 200 FBI, CIA operatives in the field on January 6th. That was a coup. Absolutely And the worst part of all of this is the truth will never come out to the general public. That truth is never going to come out to the general public because we're not going to see it on MSNBC, CBS, ABC. We're not going to see it there. We won't see it on CNN. And the reason why we won't see it there is because most of the major media, fake media, is all owned, if you will, by deep state operatives. It's all owned by people who are in for the one world government system and will do anything in order to maintain power. And justice, like we've said many times, is nearly dead in America right now. Now, what I want us to do is to look at this day in a little more detail. Here, I'm going to put up a picture on the screen. And this graphic actually describes the comparison between what would be a real insurrection, a real, problem in the nation versus what happened on January 6th. We have manufactured outrage about January 6th, when in reality we had something that was so substantial during the BLM riots and Antifa. It wasn't just BLM; it was BLM and Antifa. I didn't make this, and if I did, it would say BLM and Antifa riots. But this it gives us a clear perspective on exactly what has happened and how the media has turned things to make it look so bad for January 6th, when the reality is that's just absolutely untrue. Here it is. All the riots lasted about 7 months. 7 months, okay? 7 months of rioting, 7 months of burning, 7 months of police being stoned and hit with rocks and bottles and shot at. 7 months. Many states had to call out National Guard. January 6th, a few hours. Yeah. A few people were disrupted. Yes. 20 plus murders in the 7-month period of the BLM Antifa riots. Zero murders. Now, what there was an execution, if you will. One of the Capitol Police who shot Ashley Babbitt. That was more of an execution other than anything else. But this tells me that the FBI and the CIA and other intelligence agencies have been behind what's happening all across this nation since 2020, when they staged the win of Biden over Trump. We know there's no way Biden got 81 million votes. Just impossible. So here we go. 150, hundreds of small businesses destroyed. We all know that. Hundreds and hundreds. Many businesses couldn't even reopen again. No businesses were disrupted during January 6th. Nobody lost their livelihood in that respect. There were 150 federal buildings damaged during the Antifa and BLM riots. 150 federal buildings. Here is just one building that was damaged, and the damage was fairly minimal, although they escalated it to be about $1 million to $1.5 million worth of damage. To what? Somebody's desk. There were some windows that were broken, yes, but in any case, we'll use their numbers, $1.5 million, compared to millions and millions and millions of dollars of damage during the BLM riots over 7 months. There were 2,037 officers assaulted. 2,000 during the riots. There were 140 officers supposedly assaulted during the January 6th event. And of course, we don't know if some of those officers that were assaulted were actually operatives planted there by the CIA or the FBI. The protesters that got arrested during the BLM Antifa riots, that's right, they got bailed out. Who bailed them out? Left-wing radicals. If you remember, Kamala Harris was there telling people, we're going to bail these people out. Our own government was trying to bail out the people who were perpetrating the riots, perpetrating all this damage, destruction to our nation, to cities, to capitals, to police, to people, to businesses. It was encouraged by the media. It was encouraged by the politicians. And there was no repercussions for all that encouragement. Now, what we have with the January 6th, the protesters, when they got arrested, they were kept in solitary confinement. Many of them, some of them are still in solitary confinement to this day. Over there, they're bailed out, let go. You're released on your own recognizance, no problem. The media was in bed with everyone and everything that was happening during the Antifa riots. They wanted to see the disruption of the country in order so that they can claim Biden's victory and maintain the lie, which they have. Here we are going into the fourth year, and they've maintained the lie that Biden is the president of the United States, although we know all he's done is cause more destruction. And all of that was downplayed by the media. All of that was just, poo-pooed. If you said that it wasn't real, you were called election denier, although, people from Hillary Clinton all the way down the line have denied elections in the past. But, they're on the left. They could do that. Anything that is talked about with the January 6th today, it's exaggerated. They call you're like the worst possible thing that can happen to this nation. You are a danger to the republic, and the republic is in danger. So what we have is national encouragement of a riot, and during January 6th, we should have national outrage. But where is it? Where's the national outrage? People like you and I should be outraged that we still have men and women in jail with no bail. Haven't even gone before a magistrate, a judge, anywhere about anything. And many of them, when they finally do get sentenced, they're getting sentenced to harsh sentences, 15 to 20 years. Talk about unfair. Talk about an imbalance in our justice system. Talk about the destruction of the justice system. This is one way to do it. So with all the damage, with all the destruction, with all the murders, with all the things that have happened, here we are 4 years later, and it's almost like it didn't happen. Nobody talks about it, but they're still talking about January 6th. And they want to keep continually talking about January 6th to try and smear President Trump and you and I, who hopefully are part of the solution to this problem. But we're called, we're called all kinds of names. We're called a danger. We're called destructive to the nation. We're called much worse names than that. But if you believe in the Make America Great Again slogan, if you believe that it's important to make America pray again, oh, forget it. You're like the worst thing that could ever happen to this country. And so we're seeing that they are coming against people like you and I. How long do we think this is going to go on? Well, I think it's going to go on right on through the election. And it's going to get worse between now and then. You might remember during the BLM Antifa riots, Kamala Harris was asked, I remember this, a news reporter pulls her aside, he says, so how long do you think these riots are going to last? And she gives her, standard answer. She said, they're never going to stop. Antifa and BLM, it's just never going to stop. And they were almost like proud of it. She was like, oh, well, this is a great thing because we're standing up for injustice. Are you kidding me? We have lost our way as a nation, and we need to get back on the right path. But just when I thought I've seen it all, and believe me when I tell you, I thought I've seen it all. I thought it was completely impossible to bring me something that could change my mind. Well, someone actually brought to my attention an instance where the government has actually got involved with something and ended up doing good. That's right. Our government actually did something good. Now, listen, I know it's hard to believe because it was hard for me to believe. We had to go back all the way to the 1940s to find this. But I'm going to show you, this is proof that our government does good things. Let's look at this. Here it is.
This is an unbelievable true story. After World War II in 1948, veterans were coming home from the war and building new homes.
Wow.
Some of these veterans were building homes around a lake in Idaho. Oh, but there was just one problem. There were already homes there. Beaver homes.
Squatters.
Idaho Fish and Game had a gnawing problem on their hands. Too many beavers.
Wow.
One of the department conservation officers named Elmo was given the job of solving this problem. His first task was to find a location to relocate the beavers, from which they would not return. He knew just the place. A remote wilderness area now known as the Frank Church River of no return.
Wow.
It wasn't going to be easy. This area had a few challenges like no roads. So he thought, hey, the beavers could just parachute into the backcountry. Well, not actually strapping a parachute to the back of a beaver. Elmo designed yet another type of box. This one would open like a suitcase when it hit the ground, releasing the beaver.
Wow.
All Elmo
Great
has to do
idea.
now is test a new box design with a real beaver inside of it. He found an older male beaver who became his test pilot and proceeded to drop the box with parachute attached on a landing field. Over and over and over again. It was time for the real drop zone in the wilderness. So the day arrives. That original test pilot beaver, well, for all of his hard work, he got his own box in first class and was on the first flight out along with 3 females.
The drop crates are loaded into the airplane. Parachutes are attached to cargo lines, and the boxes are stacked in rows along the waist of the plane. Plane makes a careful approach, ready for the drop. Now into the air and down they swing, down to the ground near a stream or a lake.
When the 3 female beavers landed, their box opened and they immediately started exploring their new home. But the older test pilot male remained in his box thinking he would be doing this again and again, not knowing his parachuting days were over. But don't fear, eventually he walked out and his colony was later reported as very well established. In all, there were 76 parachuting beavers.
Wow. They moved 76 beavers by parachute to a remote section of Idaho successfully, eliminating one problem and creating a great environment for these sojourners, for these foreigners. Hey, illegal aliens. Why don't we employ the same practice? The government solved one problem back in the 40s. I think we can solve the problem today. We can make wooden crates for all of our visitors to America, and we could parachute them over the Amazon. Drop them off in a nice remote location. The boxes will open once the parachutes hit the ground, and they will have a new place that they can call home. Wouldn't that be amazing? I mean, look, the government did it once. I don't see why they couldn't do it again. Crazy, but absolutely true. Next, according to the Epoch Times, Democrats are utilizing a little-known strategy to win in 2024. Founded with the support of President Obama, his wife, Joe Biden, and Jill Biden in 2015, it was led by Obama staffers and a group called Civic Nation. And they now boast a partnership with 1,700 colleges and universities and a budget of more than $16 million. What are they doing? Well, they're fighting for gender equality, social justice, and more. And it all leads to an organization called, here it is, All In Campus Democracy Challenge. It engages with universities and administrators to sign up students as voters. So this All In organization runs the Get Out the Vote campaign in schools all across the nation. All 50 states they're involved in right now. In fact, they've partnered with 994 higher education institutions and signed up more than 10 million students. Amazing. Under the Biden administration, the Get Out the Vote campaign is now being run with, you got it, our money, federal funds. And it's spearheaded by the U.S. Department of Education. So what they did was they twisted a way of being able to sign up voters, mainly to be Democrats, because that's who they're targeting, young, foolish Americans who don't know any better. And it's all being funded by you and I, the American people, and run by the U.S. Department of Education as a way of saying we want to educate our young folks into understanding how our system works for voting. So this all happened because of President Biden's executive order 14019, which compels all government agencies to take part in a nationwide effort to register voters. Maybe if you've had your license renewed recently or registration on a vehicle, you have that box right there. You have to check. Do you need to register to vote? Do you need? See, this is an all-out push to be able to register as many people as Democrats for the coming 24 election. The Get Out the Vote campaign is specifically targeting the young voters because these are the ones who are attending colleges where they're being brainwashed by professors who are put in there by the local universities, which are all, as we know, left-wing radicals. Listen to this. A 2020 Pew survey, they did research, and they found that the single largest voter gap in favor of Democrats, listen, was white college-educated women, of whom 62% vote Democrat. So who do you think they're targeting on campuses? That's right, young women. 2020 report by the National Association of Scholars found that the Democrat-registered professors outnumbered Republican-registered professors by 10 to 1. 10 to 1. These are college campuses all across the nation. We're talking about 10 to 1 Democrat versus Republican. These kids don't have a chance in hell of getting the actual truth about how America is run. We need to have an all-out campaign. And hopefully Laura Trump taking over the Republican bid to be able to increase our voting chances by signing up new voters and getting the vote out, getting people to mail in vote, whatever it takes on the Republican side. Hopefully she's going to do a good job. I think she will. But there's been a lot of red flags raised about this kind of operation being run by the Department of Education. Because let's face it, they're collecting information on college students. And right now, they've got extensive data on 50 million college students. And a lot of us who are critics of this whole concept, we believe that this data is going to be made available to partisan organizations all across the board. You can bet on it. I mean, if I were a Democrat operative or ran a Democrat organization, I would want to have access to that data. I want to know what these college students think and how they think so that we can twist our approach to be able to get more of them to join the Democrat Party. So this has become a real problem, but it's up to you and I to make a difference. And how can we make a difference? I could tell you. Truth always destroys a lie. It always does. And our students are not stupid. By no means. They're extremely intelligent. In fact, statistics show that the current generation that is in high school and college will be like 15% more educated in a roundabout fashion. They'll be more educated, more apt to make decisions than we were when we were in college a generation ago. So they're smart. Here's the thing. They're only getting one side of the equation. Where do they get the other side? Well, they get it from people like you and I. It's time we engage them. Instead of just calling them foolish or stupid or young or, you just don't know any better. Let's instead engage them in conversation. Let's engage them in rhetoric. Let's talk about some of the facts at hand. So what does it take? It really takes nothing more than a conversation. I believe we can gather together as adults and have a conversation. And let's talk about what the Biden administration has done over the past 4 years and look at what President Trump did in the previous 4 years, and let's have a comparison debate. Let's really look at the facts. Let's not talk about the personality of Donald Trump. Let's not talk about, just how bad Biden is right now cognitively. Let's look at the actual facts of what happened then, what's going on right now, and what we need to do to move the country forward in a positive vein. I'm excited. Election is only less than 210 days or so away. I think we're in a great place to make a difference in the United States. My name is Mike Calo for Exposed, the Calo podcast. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do. We would love to to have you listen to all of our shows. Pass the word along to your family and friends. I look forward to seeing you next time. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.